Before we start today's conversation, I wanted to just let you know that you are beautiful, you are powerful, you are loved, you are everything divine, you are special, you're one of a kind, you are crafted with a lot of magic that we can't even fathom in our human minds. We're so limited by our understanding of the world. We're so limited by all the things that we do not know, in fact. And I do know, in fact, that you are a special, one of a kind person. A lot of us carry around heavy trauma that has been buried in our subconscious, have been buried within our psyches in a way that we cannot comprehend, in a way that we cannot understand. And these traumas that we've experienced in the past affect our daily lives on an everyday basis. It's like when you go through a very difficult situation, very just traumatizing situation, that experience gets baked into your subconscious mind, and you often respond to the world in a way that reflects the experiences that you've had, in a way to understand the world and gain a deeper grasp of what the world is. For example, if you say you use a bus or a train and you get robbed, or someone gets attacked in that train, that could be a traumatic experience that you could carry on with you moving forward, in a way that you find people untrustworthy, you feel like you're constantly in danger, you feel like there's a lot of anxiety being around a lot of people in crowded spaces. That can seem like just a natural response to the world based on the experiences you've had, but actually that holds you back, and that hinders your progress in life and hinders your growth, because you can no longer let yourself be open to people anymore. You no longer have the ability to stay safe in spaces that should be safe for you to be in. That hinders your expansion, your possibilities in life, because you're limited by the harsh experiences that you've had in the past. This episode is mostly for myself, because growing up, I've been through a lot of harsh experiences and a lot of generational trauma that has been passed down to me by my parents and their parents before them. And these traumas have been things that have hindered me a lot in life. These are things that have really stopped me dead in my tracks on my personal growth journey. And I realized that for me to really move forward and grow as a person, I really had to address a lot of the traumas that I've experienced, a lot of the things that were unfavorable. I had to really come to terms with the damaging effect of these episodes and how they've impacted me and what I could do about them. Oftentimes, our first traumas come from our parents, our fathers and our mothers, the people that bring us into this world through sexual intercourse. They are often the first people that we have to deal with in many ways, and this is often not in a positive way. I made an episode earlier on the global epidemic of anti-parent, and I suggest you check that out. I'm going to link it up here for you to click on. But the concept of the anti-parent is a person or two people that are against your life. They are determined to, have you be destroyed for whatever reason they might have. And I've experienced this in two different scenarios. Experiences taught me was the fact that our parents actually indeed shape our life experience. Some of us could grow up with absent mothers or fathers, and that could lead with a lot of neglect wounds within us, abandonment wounds that we carry around. And these abandonment wounds show up in other relationships that we have with our friends, in our friendships, in our jobs. These wounds are very much there, and they're very much there, and they can be exploited. They can be used against you at any time. So it's in your best interest to really address this wound. And most of us, very few people actually have positive interactions with your parents. Even if your parents are, perfect, 10 over 10 parents, there's such a thing as having two perfect parents, parents that are so perfect that actually cause damage to the child. This can happen through enabling. In one of the family dynamics that I've been in, the parents that actually spoiled their children in excess, over provision. And this affects the child and causes trauma by the way of the child not being able to be independent or self-sufficient or resilient in the face of actual real life challenges. So something that is meant to just rattle, for the lack of a better word, a person becomes a deeply impactful event that could really change the course of their whole life and really ruin them, because they haven't been mentally prepared for life from their parents, because their parents tilted more on the side of spoiling their child rather than actually raising their child. This can also cause trauma. So in essence, trauma can happen in many ways. For Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians, we carry heavy childhood trauma because our parents raised us in very harsh ways, in ways of like excessive punishment for little childlike behaviors, or little just our parents gave us a lot of heavy punishments for typical child behaviors, like just what a child would normally do. They used belts, canes, sticks to really beat and punish us, and these are things that we've come to understand as normal, but in fact this is not normal. This has raised a generation of adults that are timid, not resilient, cannot find any independence, do not possess the mental faculties that it's going to take to actually succeed in the world, because they have been stunted in their development, they've been stunted in their growth by way of really harsh punishments and really harsh physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse, physiological abuse, environmental abuse that we've sustained in the hands of our parents. And this is the norm in Nigeria. Like, this is not like something that is gonna make anybody's ears perk up, but this is a bad thing that has happened to us. And that is why I'm making this episode, so we can begin to address these issues, not just from our parents, but even in our schools. I know that I went to a bunch of different schools. In primary school, I went to like 3 different primary schools. In high school, I went to like 3 different high schools. So I've been around. And in every of these schools, something remained consistent. It was just the sheer maliciousness of the teachers. Like, teachers are so malicious. Like, it makes you hate learning. It makes you hate being in an educational environment, because you've been exposed to adults that have been absolutely just out of pocket in how they handled you. Say you make the smallest mistake, there is excessive punishment for this. And this is a very bad, damaging thing that has happened to a lot of African children. But the question that I've had to ask myself is like, where does this come from? Because we have, like I said earlier, we've normalized this behavior of excessively beating children and harming children, not understanding the implications when they get older. And I've asked myself, where does this behavior come from? And this behavior actually comes from a central point, because our ancestors did not, in fact, torture their children. They held value in communal raising of a child to give the child the best possible chance of being a healthy, well-adjusted adult. So this behavior of inflicting excessive harm on a child for little mistakes that can be corrected in various methods is something that comes from colonization. It comes from the invasion of our lands by foreigners, and how they brought in a lot of tools of control and manipulation to have us conform to their ideals, and have us conform to their way of being, and have us conform to their beliefs and their systems of operating, because that in turn benefited them. A lot of these corporal punishments that our ancestors were given by way of forcing them into conformity were excessive beating, excessive physical torture, excessive punishment by way of amputation, murder, slavery, you name it. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. And what this did for the children at that time that experienced all of these events, or saw their parents experience these events, is that trauma got stuck in their psyche. It got stuck in their subconscious, and they began to interpret the world by way of the things that they've perceived, through the lens of pain, through the lens of torture, through the lens of trauma and suffering. Deep inner suffering are things that our ancestors, our great-grandparents, had to exist in the world, being in this state for an extended period of time, and this became their norm. This became the norm for them, where torture was the norm, and this they passed down to their children, because if they were being treated in a way by foreigners that subjugated their humanity, of course they're going to pass that on to their children, because that is all they know. Same for the children, they're going to pass that on to their own children. And along the lines, we lose sight of where this behavior came from, where this behavior of actually inflicting harm on children by training them or raising them right, how that has impacted an entire generation of people. Because these people become doctors, these people become teachers, these people become lawyers, these people become pillars in society, they become our presidents and our governors, but they're beyond traumatized in a way that we cannot fathom. We cannot understand that, because it's beyond our understanding. However, we are seeing the impact of this trauma today in society, where there is high levels of corruption, there's high levels of immorality, there's high levels of lack of empathy within us as a collective. There's high levels of intolerance for our differences, especially when the beauty of humanity lies within our differences. It lies within the way the universe has crafted us as individuals to bring our unique light into this world. So when we can't tolerate each other's differences, then we become intolerant of our own differences, which lead to further issues like self-sabotage, self-harm, self-hate, self-torture. Believe me, these are real things. There might be some things that are hindering you from possibly finding love, finding a relationship that is sustainable, making friends, following your passions especially. I'm going to come back to the following your passions piece and how your trauma actively impacts your ability to succeed in life by way of your passions. I am an artist. I love to create new things. That is my big thing as a human being on this planet right now. And I've been on this journey of trying to be an artist in this world for about 15 years of my life, like professionally dedicated from my work. You can see how much time I've spent in developing my skill. Like, it speaks for itself. But this hasn't been an easy journey because I've had to overcome a lot of blocks, not just physical, real life obstacles. Those are there, they're always there, but mental, emotional, psychological obstacles that were implanted into me by the people that I grew up around. This is not a blame game. This is not a blame. I'm over a victim mindset. One thing I do not tolerate around me or anyone in my life is a victim mindset. Like, I don't believe anything happens to you. I don't believe anything happens to make you a victim. I believe everything happens for you. Everything happens for your growth, for your enlightenment, for your advancement, for your ability to open yourself up more to more compassion and empathy. And if you cannot do that, then that is something that I always will bring to question. Anyways, traumas can come up in our lives in different, many ways, like physical abuse from, say, our parents and teachers, emotional abuse by way of our family members or friends, connections. Even the government can be very, very emotionally abusive and emotionally manipulative. There's psychological abuse when there's an adult and they understand a lot more about the psyche and how that works, and they use their knowledge to cause harm to you quite intentionally and quite maliciously because they know how bad it's going to affect you. And just because you piss them off for something very small, they're gonna take it out on you. That is something that happens to people, and it goes unawares because a lot of these traumas and all of these attacks are quite invisible. There are layers to this shit. There's layers to traumas, there's layers to abuse, there's layers to how people can actually cause harm to you, and how even random events in life like the loss of a parental figure can actually do a number on you. The consequences can range from just deep abandonment wounds, deep mother and father wounds. I actually have a plan to make some episodes on the mother and father wound in the future, so subscribe to my podcast, follow me everywhere so you stay in the loop of the new things that I have available. But the father wound and the mother wound are so important for us to understand as a collective, and this is specifically for Africans. I don't really care about other people and what they have done or what they believe. My point for making this podcast is to really connect with Africans and let us understand why we're going through the things we're going through. Yes, Africa is poor. Yes, Africa is going through it. Africa is having a lot of difficulties at this time. The people that actually enjoy living in Africa and having a life in Africa are the very few elite. The rest of us, we have to deal with the unfortunate situations that we've been placed in by the universe. However, the situation that we find ourselves in is a result of events that have happened in the past. We have to walk back and retrace the steps of things that have happened and understand how we can infuse that knowledge into the present to heal, overcome it, and advance into the future in a more positive way. I feel like I'm being called to share this because I think my time on this planet is going to be very short, and I want to add value to this world in the time that I do have here. So healing is necessary. Healing is the process of reviewing the difficult experiences you've had in life, reviewing the traumas, reviewing what actually caused them to happen, and actually taking action on those things in a way that fosters more self-love, self-compassion, and by virtue of integrating more compassion into your life, you're able to actually grow in a healthy way, in the way that the universe actually designed us to grow in the way that we're supposed to live in this world. The dangers of not doing this is that you fall into the trap of just being a prime object of exploitation. There are systems within our world. There are lots and lots of different systems in many, many layers that are designed to exploit you. They're designed to exploit you. They're designed to access the deeper parts of your woundings and take advantage of that. I've been in it, so I'm telling you, it's a fact. Until you do the work to heal, you can't see clearly what real life is supposed to be. You can't see clearly what your purpose is. You can't see clearly why you're on this planet. So you think you're choosing, but you're choosing to succumb to societal standards. You're choosing to succumb to societal expectations because you just don't understand how your traumas are impacting your choices. We have free will on this planet. We have free will to choose whatever, but you lose your free will when you've been traumatized, because then you're not choosing for yourself anymore. You're choosing out of survival. You're choosing out of being placed in difficult situations. You don't have any free will anymore. Your ability to not choose also gets hampered as well. So you make the wrong choices and you end up living a life that is unfulfilling. You find yourself at maybe 80 years old, unfulfilled, lacking, solid connections in your life, feeling a lot of self-hate, feeling a lot of self-disappointment, and a lot of anger at the world. And when you die in this state of heaviness within your heart, your soul is going to sort of do like a loop back into the world, so you can actually live the life you were supposed to live outside of the traumas. It doesn't mean that when you come back, when you reincarnate, your trauma doesn't happen again, or it doesn't show up to be resolved. You never really, like, the traumas you experience, they come back over and over and over and over again to find you in every lifetime. You have to resolve it. Generational karma is a thing. Like, your karma from past lives is also a thing. We have a responsibility to ourselves to address the hardships that we've experienced in life and how they are impacting our lives today.